Electrocast.
There's a change happening in the way we live, the way we work, the way we spend our money and make our decisions. We are evolving to be more conscious in our actions in a way that serves the world and makes it a better place. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution. The Ethical Evolution podcast is brought to you by Ethical Change Agency. I'm Bindi, I'm the founder, and my mission is to help ethical entrepreneurs and holistic healers to find their voice through spiritual coaching and podcasting. I'm honoured to bring you the stories of those who create change through healing, kindness, innovation, purpose, and spirit. Understanding that to create collective change, we need to be the change. It all begins with us. Hey, before we get into this episode, I just wanted to let you know that you can now grab my album of guided meditations. It's called Sourced by Spirit, and it's on all streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, YouTube Music, and many more. There's 11 guided meditations ranging from 4 minutes through to 10 minutes to help you reset your mind and your body at any time. Okay, now let's get on with the show. Since birth, Marcy Langlois has faced formidable difficulties, undergoing more than 20 surgical procedures to address her cleft lip and palate. As Marcy progressed through Catholic grade school, she confronted another layer of self-discovery: her attraction to girls rather than boys. Confusion and shame about her sexuality reinforced her already entrenched beliefs of being worthless and unlovable. In her quest to silence the nagging voice in her mind, Marcy turned to alcohol during her middle school years. While it temporarily numbed her pain, it accelerated a downward spiral. The tragic car accident she was involved in during high school claimed the lives of 3 individuals, fueling her guilt and deepening her reliance on alcohol as an escape. Rock bottom was the turning point for Marcy at the age of 27. Utilising resources provided by a 12-step program, she embarked on a miraculous journey of recovery. Today, Marcy lives a life filled with self-love and contentment. She and her wife have cultivated a beautiful, lasting relationship for over 20 years. Professionally, Marcy achieved remarkable success as a mortgage banker and vice president in the banking industry, and now works at a top mortgage banking business. Marcy Langlois exemplifies the power of resilience in the face of daunting challenges. Her journey serves as an inspiring testament to the possibilities of personal growth and triumph over adversity. Welcome, Marcy, to the Ethical Evolution.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so great to be here with you today.
You are so welcome. Now, for those people who don't know who you are and what you do, can you go ahead and tell us?
Yeah, I am a trauma-informed coach, and I take time to tell my story about how I have recovered from chronic illness, overcome lots of trauma, and how I live my life from a healing space today.
Now, for those who don't know your story, you have had a pretty remarkable life thus far. Do you want to take us back to where it all started for you?
Sure, sure. I was born in a really rural town in Vermont in the United States, and I came into the world. I'm 48 years old, so I came into the world at a time where there were no amniocentesis to check on the baby's health prior to them coming in. And so when I showed up in the world, I had a hole in my lip and I had no palate in my mouth. And that's referred to as a cleft lip and palate. And that's often an indication that there's a lot more going on inside of the baby. And oftentimes the heart is defective. The digestive system is usually a mess. So I started my life like that, 7 days in the hospital, just one test after another, trying to figure out what might be going on internally for me, uh, which is a really important part of my story. It is because your nervous system is wired in the first 90 days of your life to know all it really is sensing is I'm safe or I'm not safe. And so to have that sort of really invasive trauma in the first 7 days of my life really set up a whole set of issues for me going forward. And then, in addition to that, my first surgery started when I was 3 months old. My last one ended when I was 18. And then, in between all of that, my life was full of doctor's appointments after doctor's appointments. I was sick all of the time, speech lessons, and so on and so forth, just trying to manage and deal with what I had going on. My father was an active alcoholic. We didn't have a lot of resources at all. There were times when we had no running water and no electricity. And so things were always tenuous, in our house. If it wasn't my health, then it was my father. If it was, right? Like there was always stuff going on. And so that set me up to believe a lot of things about who I was, what I deserved and what I didn't deserve. And then probably around the age of like school, around 5, 6, 7 years old, I knew that I definitely was attracted to the same sex. And I was sitting in a Catholic school trying to figure out how this had happened, in addition to what I was dealing with. And I really just wanted it to end and go away. And I thought if I ignored it and didn't act on it or tell anybody, then it would eventually just vanish. And so I was full of shame. I was full of shame about the way I looked, who I was, the fact that we had nothing. And that fueled the years to come. And I started drinking when I was in middle school. And then things really took hold in high school.
Marcy, there's just a lot to unpack in those first, 18 years.
Yeah.
You and I have more in common than you think. I also was born with turned eyes. So my first surgery was when I was 2. And thankfully, I had a lot of, therapy after that for a good, 14, 15 years to be able to see. And, yeah, it took up a lot of my childhood as well, where I had to wear a patch for 6 years. And the bullying and the teasing, you would have copped that too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, I'm sorry. That's a long haul.
Yeah. But look at us now, huh?
Right. Totally.
And I also had that same, attraction to the same sex, but it became more apparent to me when I was older. Like people picked it up before I did, and they were like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Oh, don't be silly." It was that time because you and I are about the same age. It was that time where you sort of weren't really open about it, and there was the shame that came with it, and you didn't want to be that person that was the odd one out. And yeah, years later I went, pennies finally dropped. Yes, I will accept it now. So yeah, you and I have so much in common. Now, it didn't end there for you, did it? Like, you got into the alcohol. Where did rock bottom hit for you?
Life is hard, but finding a really great podcast makes the days go by so much easier. Hi, my name is Blue Telusma. I'm a writer, an emotional intelligence coach, and the host of Humanize with Blue Telusma, a podcast where we believe that when you humanize everyone in the room, a great conversation is almost guaranteed. Join us every week here on Electricast as me and my guest co-hosts unpack big topics and interview even bigger personalities with a sense of humor and a dash of mischief. If you're looking for a new best friend in your head, we've got you covered. Electricast.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing your story with me. I really appreciate that. And it's always right. It's always so validating to know that we're not alone on the journey, right? That other people have all these similarities, even though it may be a little different.
Yeah,
It's the same feeling at the end of the day.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, what ended up happening in high school, I thought I was like rounding the bend in my life, and like there was a light at the end of the tunnel per se. I got to my senior year. High school was a disaster for me because I had surgery after surgery after surgery. My jaws were broke twice. It was just, I mean, it was a lot. And so when I got to my senior year, I was like, oh, phew, like I'm on the road, right? I applied for college. I got accepted at college. I was looking forward to going to college and like starting my life is the way I kept seeing that. And then I had a after school job, and on my way to my after school job in January of my senior year, I got in a terrible, horrific car accident, and 3 people lost their lives that day. The passengers, all the passengers in the other vehicle, me and the other driver were the only people to survive. And I was never legally found at fault. I wasn't drinking or using drugs before there, there's none of that. But regardless, these lives were lost, and I hit their car because he did not see me, and as I was trying to avoid him, he kept coming towards me, and so anyway, that was really the end of me as I knew myself. I had all this trauma from growing up that I had not dealt with in any way whatsoever at all. And now I have this on top of it. And I immediately assigned myself blame for this accident because these lives were lost. I felt responsible. Survivor's guilt is a very real thing. And I did not feel worthy to even breathe the air that I was breathing. Every day I woke up and I said to myself, you've killed 3 people and you don't deserve anything worth anything. And the only way to deal with that kind of emotional turmoil and pain for me was drugs and alcohol. And so I just dove deep. And for the next 10 years, that's what I did. I anesthetized myself in drugs and alcohol. And truthfully, today, I know that drugs and alcohol saved my life because I could not deal with it. I literally could not face it. I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't manage it. I couldn't anything. And so I had to stay numb to it until I could get into a place where I think I was more mature at 27 when I got clean and sober. I got clean and sober then. And then that's when I started to unpack a lot of this stuff. But that was my rock bottom, is like I couldn't drink, or I couldn't hold alcohol down. I couldn't hold food down. I couldn't hold water down. My skin was gray. I was literally killing myself with alcohol and drugs. And I also just realized that I was doing to my daughter the exact same thing that was done to me. And I just refused to do that to another living being. And I wanted to stop the cycle of dysfunction in my family. So I got clean and sober. I went to my first AA meeting, and I've never taken another drink of alcohol since that day. And that was over 21 years ago.
Oh, congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
I know how difficult that can be. I've had struggles in the past as well. And congratulations, because and you do need to, I believe, reach a rock bottom because, one of my first podcasts I ever did, I talk about, the falling down. And, we tell our story, and why do we tell people that we've fallen down? There's so much shame in it. But why do we do that? It's because it's about the growth and getting back up again. And,
Totally.
Once you get to that rock bottom, it's like a trampoline. Without the up, there's no down. So, and it works in reverse. So, I think there's power in our story, but there's also unity in our struggle. And congratulations to you for your resilience and getting through that. But you're in that upward trajectory, like I like to say, you're in that ascension mode now, where you're actually excelling at life, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Tell us what things are like nowadays.
Yeah, so it didn't come easily. I had been sober for like 5 days and thought I, deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. Like I thought I had arrived.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I couldn't stop drinking. I was drinking all day, every day, and so 5 days felt like I had literally climbed Mount Everest. And but what ended up happening, honestly, is that getting clean and sober is just the very beginning. There's so much stuff that I had to deal with. And so I got into therapy because what happened is my body started completely collapsing. I started having like 10 to 15 panic attacks a day. I had skin issues from head to toe. I had heart palpitations. I had chronic sinusitis, digestive issue. I mean, it was literally deteriorating in front of me. And I didn't understand why. So I went to a naturopath and she said, you need to go to therapy. And I thought she was crazy, truthfully. And so I went begrudgingly and I started down that path. And still, as I was going down that path, things weren't really getting better for me per se. The chronic illness actually was getting worse. And I was in a career, I was a mortgage banker, and can see clearly now on the other side of that what I did is I switched addictions from drugs and alcohol to working, because that's where I got a lot of my validation and worth, right? Is that I could perform at work and I excelled at my job and I was in the top 1% in the country in my field and all this stuff, right? And so I just kept saying, okay, well, just give me the right supplements so I can feel better so I can keep going. It's kind of like just keep pouring me beer so that I can keep going, right? Like so crazy. And finally, 3 years ago, my body said, no more, Marcy, you are done. And I had met my match and I ended up becoming bedridden for 40 days. And I had 3 days in a row that I thought I was going to die. It was COVID time. So going to the hospital for me and my condition was not an option. If I would have caught COVID, I would have for sure died. My immune system and my nervous system became completely dysregulated. And my nervous system started thinking everything in the environment was attacking us. And so down to my thoughts. So I became allergic to my own thoughts. That's when you know things are really serious. And what happened in this time is that, one, I stared death in the eye and I fully surrendered. And I became really crystal clear that I didn't ever want to live my life like I had just lived it, that I would never do that again. And the other thing is that my body was responding to every single thing that I was thinking. So whatever I was thinking, my body reacted. So I was having tremors from head to toe, and so intensely they were in my brain. And so if I started getting worked up about whether or not I was ever going to be able to go back to work, the tremors would intensify like times 10. If I could just zone out and watch something silly on Netflix, then the tremors were like, a 5 out of a 10. So I'm like, this is crazy. There's no way this is really happening, right? And I've read book after book after book about this, and I've always thought is the most like amazing idea and concept, that our mind really controls our body and that our body really is listening and responding. But I didn't really believe it fully until I experienced it fully. And so what I learned in those 40 days in bed is that if those thoughts can make me sick, then my thoughts can also make me well. And so for the last 3 years, what I've done is devoted my life to healing my body using my mind, meditation, and regulating my nervous system. And I don't take any supplements. I don't have any medical intervention. And today I don't have any histamine intolerance or mast cell activation syndrome that I was diagnosed with.
Incredible. It's really, the mind is a powerful thing, isn't it? Like, it can do so much for us, or it can really harm us if we let it. And the power of healing, from being able to heal your mind and then heal your body from the inside out. I've seen the same thing as well. Like, it's almost like, if you think of it like your house, and it's dirty, messy. It's a reflection of the state of your mind. Do you find that? It's like when your thoughts aren't right and your mind's not right, you just don't nurture it, and therefore it just starts to deteriorate, and you really just don't care about anything. But once you get your mind right, everything just falls into place. And the fact that you've turned physically things around so dramatically is incredible. I'm just, blown for words here. And, if there's people listening, Marcy, and they're struggling right now, whether it be addiction or of whatever kind, guilt, shame, what's the first thing you would recommend they do?
The first thing that I had to do was change the way that I spoke to myself. Nothing can happen until that change happens. Like I had said earlier, I woke up every day telling myself, I've killed these 3 people. I don't deserve the breath, the air that I'm breathing. There's not many places to go from there, right? To continue your day in any sort of positive fashion, right? Repeating the names that the kids called me when I was a little kid, right? In my own mind, like, God, you should have, of course they acted like this towards you. Look at you. All of that negative, terrible, self-deprecating talk has to stop. Because the body's listening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And the more that we talk like that to ourselves, then the more that we need relief from that talk. So then we're adopting these strategies, these coping strategies that aren't serving us. Right. So that's enter excess food, excess work, toxic relationships, looking for love in all the wrong places, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is for whoever, right? It's the need to escape what it is that we're saying to our own self, in addition to our past experiences. But, there's many things. But that's the first place that I had to personally start, is change the way I speak to myself.
And we're the one that we hear all the time, aren't we? And sometimes we need to shut ourselves up, literally. And, mindfulness and meditation is a great way to sort of help to begin switch that talk over, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I am fascinated by neuroscience. And I've been reading about neuroscience for like 20 years, literally, because I've been on a quest to heal myself all of this time since I got sober. And so I've read everything that I can get my hands on. And really, the bottom line is that because we're the first 7 years of our life, our brain is operating in a theta state. And theta is the state of the brain right before you fall asleep. So it's actually accessing your conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So every experience that we have for the first 7 years is stored in our mind, in our subconscious mind. And then what goes on is that as we grow and we grow out of that theta state and we start operating in a beta state, which is what you and I are doing right now, then what happens is that our daily life is run by all the thoughts that are stored in our subconscious mind. So every time the program runs together that says you're stupid, you're ugly, you're this, you're that, you're not deserving of this. It's literally wearing the groove in your brain even deeper. So your brain just keeps bringing that thought up. So once you're able to intercede on your own behalf, it stops wiring that thread in the brain, right? And the groove doesn't have such a well-worn track. And the beauty is that you can put in a new track. Like I can lay down a new track, right? So like I have a whole bunch of new tracks. Like I'm worthy, I'm lovable, right? I'm open and deserving of all things that are good, you know, like all those kinds of things. And now my brain believes it. So my body's listening. So my body's healed.
And, you know, that self-talk, it's like it's trying to scratch a record, isn't it? Like you've just said there, those tracks. It's like, you know, if you can get a better track in there and make sure that you solidify that one, and genuinely and authentically as well, you know, like, you know, you can do all the mantras under the sun and say things to yourself and not mean it, but it takes true healing to authentically mean it and believe it, for it to really have an impact, isn't it?
100%. So that's like the other part, right? Like there's so much there. It's not one thing. Like forever, I wanted the one answer that was going to solve all the issues, right? And so what I've learned is it's not that way. It's all encompassing. It's all of it, right? It's mind, body, spirit. It's you have to go back to the beginning to heal the present, right? You cannot, the present is not going to be what you envision or want if you haven't dealt with the past. You have to name it, acknowledge it in order to feel it and then heal it, right? Like we could talk about this forever, but the answer to your question is 100% yes, but you have to get there by healing.
And this is it. You've got to get through it to get to the other side, don't you? You can't just put a Band-Aid on it and it'll go away. You actually do have to acknowledge that whatever it is has happened is part of you and it's made you who you are today. And you have to own that, whether it's good or bad. And it's the only way you're going to get to the other side of it or to heal it. And I think forgiveness is a really big part of the beginning of that, is to forgive yourself for one and anybody else who's involved in the trauma in whatever's happened. No doubt forgiveness has been a big thing for you.
Yeah, you know, forgiveness is a difficult concept for me. I have a lot of you know, stuff with religion. I'm not a religious person. I respect everybody's beliefs, but me personally, I'm not. I'm a very spiritual person. And so forgiveness for me has a lot of connotations wrapped up in religion, especially the religion Catholicism. And so it was really, really difficult for me. And so what has really helped me and guided me the most actually is the practice of surrender and acceptance. So the thing is like, I can't accept anything unless I'm willing to let go, right? Like every day after the car accident, I would wake up and I desperately, with everything in my being, wanted to change what had happened. I wanted it to be different, which means I was resisting what had actually happened. And that resistance was what was causing my own suffering, right? Because I wasn't willing to just say, okay, like, okay, there's nothing that I can do. I can't undo this, right? If I could, I would, but I cannot. And so what I noticed is as soon as I was able to stop resisting what was, then my suffering reduced by like 50%. And then it wasn't about making anybody right or wrong. It was just about accepting that this is the way that it was, period, right? And when I could get into those spaces, that is when true transformation and healing happened for me.
Yeah. Now, Marcy, when I read your story, it reminded me of an episode that I did for my premium feed, which basically is some insights that I've learned through this podcast and through life. And basically the story behind it is that we're not a tumbleweed, we're not here rolling through life because of circumstance. We can take control. We can grab a hold of the wheel. And, when I read your story, it reminded me of that, events happen in our lives, but it's how we react to them that matters, And when I looked at your story, I was like, yeah, it's how we react. And what you've done is you've gone through all of these things. Resilience has come through in the end, and your reaction was to rise above it all and to heal and to get through the other side and to now help others. Would you agree for you that reacting to your circumstances or the events in your life is, really been why you're here today?
Yeah, I think so. I think absolutely, yes. Sometimes it took me years to figure out that wasn't going to be the right way to go.
Yeah.
But when I finally understood that the only way out is through, I got it, right? Like I really got it. And I became so committed to the path of healing. I just refused to live with this movie playing in my mind constantly of all the trauma. Like I was like, I'm not doing that. So whatever I have to do other than that, I'm going to do it.
Going back to you now helping others, you actually are now coaching others, and you've also got your own podcast, don't you? Tell us about that.
Yes, I do have my own podcast, but I've just put it on hiatus because it's a lot of work.
Let's
be real, right?
Yes.
You know it well. So I've published, I think, like 37 or 38 episodes. They're all solo casts. They're just like 10, 12-minute shows. And what I do is I pick a topic, and then at the end of the little talk I give you like 3 to 5 actionable steps to make change in your life today. So it's just a giving thing,
Yep.
I want to help people. So what I've found is that I feel like I can do that, but I can do it faster and more efficiently and effectively on social media. So I've really taken my focus to social media. And then, yes, my coaching practice is like, oh my gosh, it's the most rewarding thing ever, right? You know that too, right? Yeah, to see people transform their life and to see people overcome themselves every single day is amazing to me.
So rewarding. Can you give us a bit of an insight into the change that you've helped other people make?
Yeah, I'll give you my most recent testimonial. I have this woman that I'm working with, and she came to me, and she's got a number of years sober, and but she's struggling with her weight. She's struggling with finances. She's not happy in her job. She keeps picking toxic relationships. Pretty much like every area of her life, other than quitting drinking, has been affected. And, she's been in therapy and done all the 12 steps, dozens of times, all the things, right? And she's like, I don't understand. I'm still spinning my wheels. And so we've worked together for 4 weeks. And she was like, Marcy, my whole life has changed. Like, I cannot believe this. Like, I don't want to eat bad food anymore. I have stopped trolling dating websites. I just don't want to do that anymore. I deserve someone better. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, you do, right? Like, yes, you do. She's walking, she's sleeping better, she's taking care of her finances head on and just dealing with it instead of continuing to, try to shove it under the carpet. And she literally was just crying on the call with me, just saying how grateful, like, connecting all the dots for her has unraveled everything. It was literally like pulling the thread in her life, right? And she's like, how have I missed this for so long? And that is like, for me, it's like, if I don't help another single person, that was worth it,
It's an amazing thing to help someone get to a space of nourishment and not punishment, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, yes, a billion times yes.
And that, I think, is the most rewarding thing you could possibly do. And, it's almost like you're now the karma millionaire because, everything you've been through, it's like, and you're giving that back, and you're making something matter on the other side of it. Just means that it's such a sweeter ride now.
Yeah. Have you ever read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl?
No, but I have heard of it.
Oh my gosh. Life-changing book, like life-changing. So just real quick, he was in a concentration camp in Nazi Germany, and he was a psychiatrist, and he was in this concentration camp, and he wrote the book after he got out. And he talks in the book about how when we as human beings have the capacity to do and endure anything, as long as we can transform that suffering into meaning and purpose. And that's it for me, right? Like that sums up who and what I am, what I believe, what I think about the human spirit and resiliency, all of it. It's right there. When I can transform my suffering into meaning and purpose, it's worth everything to me.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because when I face rough times now, I say we didn't come this far to come this far. Like it's
right.
It's really more than that, and you can see purpose is such a big part of your life now, which I just love. Now, Marcy, if people want to get in touch with you and learn more about what you do and maybe get some coaching from you, where can they go?
Yeah, so I believe, I'm not sure, I just had a transition in my website, so I'll send you my link. It's kind of hard to recite it where people could jot it down. So if you could just put it in the show notes,
Sure.
that would be awesome.
Yep.
And then I'm on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And if you just follow me there, I literally post content twice a day of how you can do something different to change your life wherever you're at. So just following me is amazing. And if you'd like to, look into coaching with me, I like to just talk to people and see if I'm a good fit, because I may not be a good fit for everybody. So I just offer a free consultation call to check that out first. And if I'm not a good fit, I certainly am going to let you know that. And if I am, that's wonderful and we'll get things rolling. But that's
awesome.
how I make it happen.
And I feel like the next question I'm about to ask you is highly appropriate for you, given what you do now. So I'm going to ask you anyway, what's the change you'd like to see in the world and how can we bring it to life?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh my goodness. I would like everyone to love themselves. Like, that is the change I want to see in the world. I mean, it's everything to love yourself, because as soon as you can start to love yourself, then you can take that out into the world, right? And then compassion and everything else just flows from that space of love, right? So that would be the change that I would want to see in the world. And it starts with us. I cannot, I used to go out and find the sickest person, and try to fix them, thinking, that would make me better or something. I don't even know what I was thinking, right? But I was outwardly focused. And if everyone would just come home to themselves and make themselves important enough and healthy enough to be able to reside in your own space, oh my gosh, the world would be amazing.
It would, wouldn't it? And Marcy, it sounds like you've maybe listened to the show or you know the tagline. It all begins with us.
Oh yeah, I was just reading a bit before we got on the call. Yes, but I didn't. That was a just a flippant statement.
Yeah, no, but it truly does, And there's so many people who go to answer that question and then they end up actually reciting the mission of the show, which is actually the same thing. But I love that you said that that. Loving ourselves is where it really all starts, because that's where true healing lies. And that's where that talk in your head changes, how you see yourself, how you project yourself, and how you show up in the world. And, you not only heal yourself, but then you start to heal those around you. And imagine if we all did that. It would be incredible.
It would be amazing.
Marcy, I have loved every minute with you. Thank you so much for being a part of the Ethical Evolution.
Thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure, truly.
Thanks for listening to the Ethical Evolution podcast. If you're ready to be the change and would love to work with me on finding your voice through spiritual coaching or creating your own podcast with impact, visit ethicalchangeagency.com. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's growing every day with great content and highlights you may not have heard on the podcast. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, and why not leave a 5-star review? If you're not following me on social media, you can find me at Ethical Change Agency on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube, and at DJ Bindi on TikTok and Instagram. If you're interested in diving deeper into the ethical evolution with me, I've created a membership program that allows me to bring you more in-depth exclusive content without relying on paid ads. My goal is to deliver members way more value than the cost of the subscription. Benefits include Ask Me Anything episodes. I've interviewed hundreds of people from around the world, so imagine what you could ask. Access exclusive bonus content only for members that focuses on the downloads I get through my conversations that include actionable tips. Support Ethical Change Agency and the Ethical Evolution podcast on its mission to amplify change makers who make the world a better place. Access to global connections who can help you make greater impact in the world. Meditate with me and discounted spiritual coaching or podcast consulting with me at 15% off. That value alone pays for your membership. For only $7 a month or $70 a year, you can access all these benefits of an Ethical Evolution Emergence membership. If you want to learn more and access these benefits, head on over to ethicalchangeagency.com.
Hi, I'm Geraldine Glass, and I'm excited to share a new healing music offering, an extended version song called Joy Reboot, a unique fusion of pop, classic, rap, soundscapes, and funk to inspire collaboration and bring unity through sound. For us, Joy Reboot is music medicine, out now with Electrocast Records.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily podcast from Electrocast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electrocast. Electrocast.